TPCSI fans, you want to revolutionize your sports investing habits? Allow me to tell you about WagerWire. WagerWire is an app that helps you become a superior bettor by allowing you to sync all your sports books and track all your bets in one place. See your current action, your betting history, and stats. You could also sign up for sports books and collect bonus offers. Follow them at WagerWire on X, as it's the best account on the platform. Head to App Store or Play Store now and search WagerWire and download the app.
2,000 years long, we will never settle. Hard days, no way, with a heavy metal. No time, no fail, won't stop here. Like a torch to a flame when it burns hot. We won't stop, come on, take me higher. Like a torch to a flame when it burns hot. We won't stop.
Good afternoon, sports fans from all around the globe. I am the host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and it's that time of the week for Fight Night Fortunes with good friend and colleague, Mr. Lou Finocchiaro, UFC Fight Night Abu Dhabi. Every time I go to say that, I feel like I'm back and watching the Flintstones and Yabba Dabba Doo, and I always got to slow myself down there. Abu Dhabi. Last week, Manchester, England. Late night for some of those fighters there, which Dana White got critiqued about, but he didn't care, of course. So a great card of fights. Absolutely stoked to talk to the expert, Mr. Lou, GAMB LOU, as we like to call him in our lanes. If you haven't, on Mondays, head over to the Sneak Teep podcast, which I've listened to a handful of times already. Opening lines, where the lines have moved. Lou does a great job there. And then, of course, on Fridays on the Bout Business podcast. Again, you can get that on X and his website as well. So first, a shout out to our proud sponsor and partnerships, WagerWire. If you were here this morning, we were live again from Paris, the USA house, where Travis Geiger was walking us around and brought us around to some very expensive clothing stores. A jacket alone was 750 euros. So not this year, maybe 2028 we'll all be in LA to watch the Summer Olympics. And of course, a shout out to Viva Tequila Sunrise, CT Bets, and the rest of that team. Thank you so much for joining the ECSI family. So without further ado, the true star of this show, Mr. Lou Finocchiaro.
Jeffrey,
Good
good
afternoon.
to be with you. I just want to say a couple things. I'm no star, number one. Number two, I'm no expert. I'm a fight enthusiast. And I hope that the listeners and viewers can pick that up from the passion that I try and deliver with my dissection of UFC fights. And the one thing I'll say is that I'd probably opt to get the jacket in Paris now as opposed to in LA then, because I'll save money.
Some of those prices were just off the charts.
Of course.
I would have had them on a carry-on with three locks. I mean, the prices alone were just outrageous. But anyways, big weekend of fights. Of course, we talked last week, Manchester, England. We're not going to go over a lot of those fights. We talked, if I remember correctly, 10 in all. Last time they were over there were 7 fighters. Now, this past weekend, 10 from England or close. Was that correct? 10 fighters in all?
Yes. 10 English. That wasn't counting the Mokayev, who's a Dagestani, but he lives there. And then there were 3 Irishmen and a Wales.
If I remember correctly, first time they were over there, you said they ended 6-1. Did you have the final tally for us? How they ended this card?
Great question. No, I can tell you in a second. However, that you should have prepared me for that question, because it's a great question and a reasonable one. Let's see. So we're 1-0, 1-1. I'm not going to count Scotland or Ireland. 2-1, 3-1, 3-2, 4-2, 5-2, 6-2, 7-2, 8-2. Let's call it 8-3 because Muhammad beat Edwards. So 8-3. I got 11 of them in there, and that's typical. And what is also rewarding is that when we choose to try and take advantage of price by fading a local, whether it's a Dagestani here this week or an Englishman last week, you got to try and be right. And we did have RoboCop, Greg Rodriguez against Christian Leroy Duncan, and he was a plus 125, plus 130. So that one helped set us up for a winning night. And now we just march forward from England to Abu Dhabi.
1000%. And you and I talked physically on the phone, so I'm not going to rehash that conversation. As again, it's a new card, it's a new day, it's a new week. For me, outside looking in, the big surprise, obviously for me at least, was Molly. The first round, she just got demolished by Brazil, and she took a beating, but she kept on going as a big favorite, maybe -3 and change by the time that closed. And the knucklehead Green, just doing a headfirst dive into Patty in my eyes, and once that happened, Patty took him down. It was lights out.
As I stated, I'm sure the time to take Bobby Green is as an underdog and in a striking affair. And this should have been a striking affair. You can't trust Bobby Green. He's 37. He's been fighting in the UFC 18 years, and all 18, you can't trust him. You just got to know when.
And lastly, hats off to you on Thursday and on your podcast. You had talked about the number. Muhammad is a 2-1 dog against Leon Edwards. Goes the distance. Muhammad controlled the fight for the most part. Surprised, not just how he controlled it, or was there something that Leon wasn't firing? But I know you were on the right side, and hats off, obviously, to you.
Thank you very much. We really try and work hard at playing underdogs. This year's been challenging, and I've been forced to be open to yields in the road, simply because this year the favorites are running higher than 67%. Typically in the UFC, favorites run 62, 63%. It's been a very high rate of favorites early in the year. It's forced me to react a little bit, but I still try and focus in on live underdogs at every opportunity. I don't like to return anything less than what I outlay.
I said earlier, I listened to your podcast on Monday a handful of times. I got a lot of great information. Before we go into the four fights that we had listed that we're going to go over here in the main event here, a couple big moves, and you had talked about the Dern fight going kind of the opposite way that you thought. Opened at 175, now is down as low as 120. Surprised, and the reason is the dog that live, or am I missing something there?
I think the people betting the dog think she's that live, and she's a very competent, good fighter. She trains just south of the border, Mexican, tough as nails, great boxing, solid wrestling. The issue here is the caliber of opponent each has been in with and how Dern shows up at this fight. Her father is a guy named Diaz, a world championship Brazilian jiu-jitsu artist, and he trained his little girl, whose name is Mackenzie Dern, to be the same, and that's what she is now. She can't wrestle a lick, and she struggles getting people to the ground. However, in this fight, she'll be 2 inches taller. She'll be the one with more experience. She's been in with better opponents, and I think this is a very, very opportune situation for Mackenzie Dern.
And the last one, again, Fernandez opened at 170, now steamed to -360 against, I'm going to say, Bedoya, who opened at -110. It was a minus, I'm sorry, I'm crossing the fights here. Fernandez.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah. Now 3+330. What again? Just a bad opening number. All the sharps and people saw that, and it just been pounding the favorite side.
No, I think in this case, I don't know much about Fernandez. That's why I can't really comment. I do know I'm not impressed with Yaya.
Okay.
So that must be part of what the other people are thinking. They either see a good fighter in Cow, or they see a good fighter in Cow matched up against an inept fight. I don't want to say inept, not an average, below average fighter in Yaya, and perhaps that's what it is. I would, in that one, I don't want any part of the fight, really. I would tend to think that the market may know something there.
All right, we're going to go to the first fight here. Jai Herbert versus Rolando Bedoya. Take it away.
That's an early fight on the prelims, and let's understand the prelims now. We're in Abu Dhabi, so that's 9 a.m. Pacific time, which means at the prelims start at noon in the East Coast. So just FYI. Bedoya in from Purdue, Jai Herbert in from England. Now, wait a minute. They just fought in England last week. Why wasn't Herbert on that card? Somebody answer that for me. Number one, they make him travel out to Abu Dhabi. Okay. But that's not enough. He hasn't fought since September of 22. And even when he did fight, I don't know that I really thought he was that good. He's long and has decent striking. And when this fight opened, it opens at -110 each. Bedoya, however, he's been in the UFC just a year plus. He has 2 fights, both in 2023, lost them both to good competition, showed well. He's been active. 2-0-2 in the UFC, to me, spells desperation. I like the fact that he's tough, durable, striker, comes forward, and I tend to think that he's in a good position here. I don't agree with the line movement now moving to Herbert -185. I tend to think Bedoya will have more volume and more aggression and has a great chance to win this fight.
Dogs will be barking early there. And you did make a great statement. And last week, some of these fighters were fighting at 3:34, 5:30 in the morning. Dana just shook it off. At least here back east, the way I understand it, we'll be watching fights at 12 and 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And you'll be even earlier back west, correct?
That's correct.
And no rhyme or reason for Dana not doing the shift there as well? He doesn't care.
He did do the shift. They're fighting it, but the difference is the time zone. Their time zone is such that whatever they're fighting at whatever time that makes it we have to watch. So to me, the bigger question is why did England set up so well that we got to wait till 3 to watch it? Why weren't we watching England at 9 a.m.? That's what the English are asking. That's what I'm asking, because this fight card's going off at a normal time, probably 8 p.m. Saudi Arabia time. They're 10 or 12 hours ahead of us. In fact, tomorrow they're 10 hours ahead of us, because weigh-ins Friday at 9 a.m. are 10 p.m. tonight here Pacific time. So these are, I understand where these guys fight and what time zone they are, because I have to watch all this stuff, so I know.
All right, Noah, pull up fight number 2. Let's see where we're going here.
I put this one in here just to hear you pronounce it.
All right. Well, my good friend and colleague here, Noah, was going to really try to help me out here. So let's say Joram Kuda, hold on, Kuda Adze.
It's Durham Kutataladze against a kid named Vucenic.
I would have got the Vucenic. So all right, I don't get the gold star today, Lou.
No problem. These names are tough for me, Jeff, and you do the best with them you can. At least Dawson's pronounceable. With a last name like Finocchiaro, I should be the last guy mispronouncing people's last name, I'm telling you. So you get a free pass, brother. So in this particular fight, Kutataladze is a bad hombre. He's a Georgian. Therefore, he is Russian and Muslim. He'll have the crowd in his favor. He trains with Kazmat Chimaev, who's a beast. This guy's a beast. But he has shown in previous fights that he can slow when the third round comes. He's a terror for the first 2 rounds, but the third round, sometimes he gasses. This Vucenic, he's been dreaming getting in the UFC for his whole life. This is his debut fight. They bring him in on short notice. Well, he's preparing for another fight, but he's got a good, solid game, and I understand him to be high in cardio and wrestling. Now, I don't know enough about him to have any opinion on the fight, except my people that I've talked to that have studied Vucenic believe that he can take this to the third round, and if he can get it to the third round, he could show great opportunity here. Not a fight I'll be using, but it should be a fight that people tune into because it should be awesome. Kutadalaze is just a wild brawler.
Our third fight here, Davison Figueiredo versus Corey Sandhagen.
Yeah, Davidson Figueiredo actually fighting Chito Vera. Vera is an Ecuadorian, Figueiredo a Brazilian. Now, the key to this fight is that it's 135, a bantamweight fight, and Vera's a natural bantamweight. He's fought the elite of the division. He's lost to the elite, but beats most everyone else. Figueiredo was a champion at 125, the flyweight division. He moved up because he was cheating as a flyweight, meaning he really couldn't make 125. He would kill himself to lose the weight, to make the weight, to be the bigger guy. So now that he's moved up, he's actually shown himself to be fast, powerful, has great cardio. The move out, he was clearly depleting himself trying to lose all that weight. He's way better at 35. He's won a couple fights up here. This will be a very telling fight to determine, because if Vera can beat Figueiredo, then maybe Figueiredo isn't the top of the line. If Figueiredo can beat Vera and jump into the top 10 of the division, he's now a threat. And so this should be a very interesting fight. I tend to think that Figueiredo, because he's been fighting at a lower weight and it might be slightly smaller man, might be the faster man as well. Vera is tough, durable, willing, forward pressing, but he's not a great mixed martial artist. Figueiredo's a very polished, well-rounded mixed martial artist. Maybe I lean to Figueiredo here.
And the last fight, the main event, correct? Or the co-main event?
This is the main event, you betcha.
All right, Mr. Sandhagen versus Umar. I was looking at some opening numbers here. Tends to look like some money coming in on the underdog here from opening to where it stands now. Did your eyes initially see the move coming in on the underdog, or were you looking at a different set of numbers?
No, Jeff, I got to be honest with you. The whole MMA community was flabbergasted by the opening number here. That was Nurmagomedov 400, Sandhagen 300. And it was a lightning rod talking point for a week after it came out. Most people voicing support that Sandhagen shouldn't be that much of an underdog. And for the most part, I think they were right. That said, you got to peel the onion back a little bit, look real deep into these things. And what you see is that, yeah, Sandhagen is a couple of years older, but he's only 32, so he's in his prime. He's been in with much better competition. He's been in with all the elite of the division, beaten most of them. He's taller, he's longer, he's more deft moving on the feet. Umar tends to be more Dagestani wrestler. He can strike, but he's not a deft striker. Most people saw how poor he looked in a fight, his last out, and think he can't fight. I think there's tremendous overreaction for what they saw out of Umar Nurmagomedov in his last fight, and they know Corey Sandhagen's done well. But it's my job to peel this onion back a little bit deeper. And Sandhagen's had two real challenges, both losses. One against the wrestler that was TJ Dillashaw a few years ago. And then in his next fight, he got pushed backwards and outboxed by Peter Yan. And what I see out of Nurmagomedov is he's the better version of both of those fighters mixed up into one, and that this is going to be a whale of a fight. I haven't come to grips with a side yet, and when I haven't, by Thursday, I usually don't. What I did like a lot really early in the week, this fight opened at 3.5. I love the over there. I think it goes to decision, but now the totals are all 4.5. So I wasn't able to take advantage of that with my clients. I fell asleep on it myself. But I tend to think that I'm gonna try and find maybe Nurmagomedov decision. Fight goes to decision over 4.5. I'm not sure, but I think that I smell decision in this fight.
It's going to be a great card, of course. I can't wait. I have to ask you this. I know UFC credentialed. I know you go to Vegas. You go to a lot of the fights, or at least go to the city of Vegas and then decide where you're going to watch the fights. It's a couple weeks away, but the big fights Dana's pumping up now at the Sphere. And again, just Noche, exactly. And I see a lot of tweets out there, Lou, just to get in. $4,500 is like the bare minimum to get in. So for the average person that will just go buy the ticket, the UFC ticket, and just watch it from your home, have a bunch of people over. But I know the Sphere. I have not been there yet. I will eventually get there. I don't know if you have been there, but for the average novice UFC fighter, there's no chance that we can get into that. Are you kind of blown away by the initial pricing of this card?
Not really, because I study the pricing of most of these cards and I see what these people pay to go to these fights live. That's why I'm really tickled that I'm credentialed, because there's a lot of money, especially if you want a good seat. And then you have to go to an event or two to understand what the good seats are. If you've never been and you just look at a grid, you don't know, and you're going to learn. I'm just telling you. So you got to know where to sit and how to do this thing. This ain't my first rodeo. My days of going to live events and dealing with huge crowds in a day and age when I'm usually working and trying to make money off fights, football, whatever it is, are few and far between. So I don't really go anymore. I looked at the price at Noche, and I'm considering going just because of the event it's going to be, me and a couple buddies. Will I go or not? I'm not so sure. We'll just have to see. I mean, the good news is it's early September and football season, so there's surely excuses for me to be able to be there.
Well, we got a lot of people that follow you, obviously a lot that are watching here, and everyone knows, obviously, where to go find you. On Twitter, of course, at GAMB LOU, a contributor on VSiN, on SportsGrid. I started the show on Mondays, take a peek at the Sneak Peek podcast, and then on Fridays, About Business podcast. They can get you at gamblou.com and, of course, send you an email at lou@gamblou.com. But as we always finish, the Octagon is yours. Tell them exactly where to find you and what you got for everyone.
Holy smokes, Jeff, you just did the greatest infomercial I've ever heard. So thank you so much for that. And you can see it strolling down on the band below, which Noah has done. And he's great, polishing a couple old saddles like us up and making us look presentable on the airwaves. We got to give Noah his props. All I'll say is it's NFL season. In the next couple, 2-3 weeks, I'm going to have some opinions coming out. Check the website for NFL. And other than that, just tune in here every Thursday, 3 p.m. Eastern, for Jeff and I breaking down these fights.
Well, I can't wait. I'm all set. My Saturday is cleared. August 1st today. August is here. Just 3.5 weeks till week 0, something like that. And, we'll be talking, obviously, UFC with you throughout the fall. That's our goal, obviously. And maybe just throw in a couple sneak peeks, no pun intended there, Lou, maybe what you're eyeing in some football as we progress down into the fall. How's that sound?
No problem at all. Love to do it.
All right. Shout out to, of course, Noah Frank. the best producer in the world. Glad all is well in Topeka, Kansas. Go follow Lou at GAMB LOU. Get ready for tomorrow on the Bout podcast there, where you can grab that, obviously, at GAMB LOU on Twitter. Go follow myself at EC Sports Investor. Wish everyone a blessed day. Tomorrow, 1 o'clock Eastern, Sean Alvarez at Smooth Turn 2. We'll be talking Saratoga and Del Mar. Till then, we will see you soon.